Creo Parametric 4.0, Lesson 3, Part 2. We're going to continue on with our small parts that we've been modeling, and we're going to do the sixth part here, which is a revolve. I'm just going to leave the defaults. Don't worry about the names. And since I had restarted my system, I'm going to make sure I've got my datum tags on and my tree filters. I want to be able to see everything in the model tree. Now this is going to be a revolve part. So I'm going to select revolve. And again, I could select something to sketch on and then revolve. I'm going to pick revolve. And I'm going to sketch on the right datum. And also go into my sketch view as normal. And I've got my Z going down. So right mouse button, section orientation, vertical reference, and I'm going to select that datum plane. Now I've got my Z going here, which will be down the middle of my part. I like to do that. It's not important, but I still like to do it. Now, this command here, center line, is active because it's a datum for the axis of revolution. Pick once, pick twice, middle mouse button. Put your cursor over the top. You can see it's a center line axis of revolution. Right mouse button, I'm going to go and select my line, and I'm going to sketch a simple shape. Try not to make them equal. Middle mouse button, and you can see it. You can see here that we've got our diameter dimensions given to us because we used an axis of revolution. We don't have to convert those or add another dimension. Here we're going to put a dimension for the overall though. I click the line, it went down here. And I'm going to also click on this line here and a dimension for here. And for some reason these that I had moved, by the way, I'm hitting my middle mouse button. I can come over here and click select instead. So I'm going to move this over here and move this one back over here just to get it off the object itself. And again, I'm not going to worry about the sizes or anything. So I can go into my saved views, standard orientation, right mouse button, or up here in the ribbon, and it shows me my revolved feature. If I try to go click on another axis, you'll see it changes the revolution of that section. We want to keep this one right here. So middle mouse button to finish or give a check or hit enter. And I'm going to go and I'm going to select all my edges here. So I'm going to pick on 1, hold down my control key, 2, 3, and I picked the wrong thing. I picked a surface. So I'm going to go back and select that, and then I'm going to go and grab the edges here. Make a mistake, just click on it again and go back and get the one that you want. So here's all my edges selected. Right mouse button, and I'm going to round those and maybe drag them out a tiny bit. If you make it too big, it might fail. There's my failure. And it put a failed feature over here. I can click on it, go into my edit definition, and let's make it 10, make it smaller. Now it does preview. Before, these two were interfering with each other. That's why it didn't work. Enter Control D for my pictorial trimetric view. And I'm going to add a section, view, section, and whatever I select, it will cut the section through there. I'm going to put in another color for now. Ooh, maybe a better one than that. And section lining, I can change that. That's something we do later in the book. And if I wanted to, I could turn on the dragger for clipping, and I could literally come over here and I can change what the section is going to look like. And I can also display this in 2D I can rotate it. I'm going to back it up a little bit with an undo. And check. And if I don't want this to be displayed, I click on it in the model tree and I can remove it by just deactivating it. I left the section lining on. All right. Next component is a little torus, new. And in this case, I think I'm going to sketch on my front view, and I'm going to click Revolve. I can come up here, or I right mouse button, or as I select it, it comes up automatically. And I'm going to take and put a center line down the middle here for my axis. And I'm going to go and put an ellipse over here someplace. Now, the book may tell you to put it on this line. I'm putting it above that for a reason. So there's my section. The reason is because as long as this sketch is on one side of the center line or on one side of this axis, it'll allow me a couple variations. So right mouse button, check. It takes a little while to generate. But for instance, if I go down here and I click on this one here, it'll revolve it in the other direction. And that's because all the entities are on one side of the axis. Doesn't want to go back. It takes a little while to process it. And I think I will make this 180, like so. And if we make it thin, it becomes a tube. And middle mouse button to finish. Next part is a revolved cut. Start my new part. In this particular case, I'm going to sketch on my front view again. Extrude. Right mouse button. I'm going to put a center line here. And I'm going to go up and I'm going to select rectangle and center rectangle. I'm going to click somewhere up in here. And I'm going to snap to the line. Now I could have gone into my 2D view if that looks better. Some people prefer to see it in 2D. Doesn't want to let me grab it. There we go. Like so. So right mouse button, check. I do want this to be symmetrical. And maybe come out a little bit more. And there's my first feature. Now the second feature is going to be a revolved cut. So I'm going to again sketch on same datum plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the revolve command, go to placement and define the sketch. And then I'm going to use previous over here. Rather than selecting something, I'm going to use the previous sketching plane. And I'll go into 2D. And right mouse button, select my circle. And I'm going to go here. Now with 4.0, it automatically locks. In the book, I teach you how to put a reference there. Either way is acceptable. I'm going to make this a little bit big. And check. And I'm going to remove material. Now, I did something wrong. So I'm going to go back into my external, edit the sketch itself. And it is a revolve. I'm going to put a center line in here. I know you can say I had one from before, but put a new center line in there. Check. Still not getting it to revolve and cut. This is interesting. Go back into placement, edit. Seems like should be okay. I can't see anything wrong with this. feature requirements, it says center line for revolve is not found. That's interesting because I just put one in. Let's put another one in. So I'm going to go over, I can pick a center line here, pick a center line up here. Let's see what happens. Maybe they want the other type of center line. There it is. So check. Now I'm getting my view here. And if I go and I take this circle, make it a little bit bigger, so it cuts through the edge. Check. And now I'm going to put some rounds on. Well, maybe I'll put a hole first. I'm going to come and I'm just going to select the top face, hold down the control key, pick on the axes, and one of the choices here is in my pop-up is the hole. Pick on the hole, and I want it to be through all. So there's my hole. Now, middle mouse button to finish that feature. Now, I'm going to come over and I'm going to select one edge, and then I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to pick this face. Then I'm going to hold down the the control key, and pick an edge. Pick another edge. And then I'm going to pick another edge, hold down the shift key, and let's see if it lets me select that. And it did. Okay, so I lost it in some selection process there. Let's do a little bit at a time. I'm going to pick on this edge first, then I'm going to pick on the surface. So you can see there's my round. If I hold down my control key, I ought to be able to go and pick all the other ones. Right mouse button, round, and there's my round. Middle mouse button to finish, or enter, or check. The next one will be a blend. And I'm going to go up to my shapes here, and the group, the overflow, pick on blend. Now, it's looking for a section, so I want to define something here. Right mouse button, define internal sketch, or just pick define. And I'm going to select this to sketch on the top, and click on sketch, and I will go into the 2D here. And right mouse button, and I'm going to select my rectangle. I don't think I'll make it symmetrical. Middle mouse button. Remember, I started up here, and we do want to remember that. So there's my first section. Check. And you can see the distance between that and the next section is going to be 121. We can change that to anything we wish. Sections, we want to have section 2. It needs at least 2 sections. Sketch. And I'm going to go back over to my 2D view. And right mouse button, rectangle again. And I'm going to start up here and go over to here, make it a different direction. Arrows are in the same spot. If you need to change an arrow, just click on another point, right mouse button, and change the start point. This is what you want to see, though, both of them in the same corner, pointing in the same direction. Check. And there's my blend. Now, what we'll do is we'll add another section. Insert. And again, you can drag this one out to something different. Sketch. And go back into 2D so that we see it a little bit better. And again, it's got to have the same amount of entities in it. So it's a rectangle, so there's 4 entities. And on this one here, I think I'll go and do this opposite direction again. So you can see the arrow is pointing in that direction. Check. And if we look here, it says options and smooth. If we gave it a straight option, you can see what happens. We're going to keep smooth, like so. Check. And there's my shape. Now, if I wanted to come and select shell, pick this, hold down the control key, pick the other side, middle mouse button. I've removed both sides, and it's a shelled feature. All right, the last one here is a swept blend. Pick swept blend. And here, if we go look at the references, it's looking for a trajectory, and we don't have anything yet. So way over here is a datum command. So we're going to go pick on that, and we're going to sketch, and we're going to pick this datum plane to sketch the trajectory. Close that. And I'm going to go into my 2D, pick spline, and put in about 4 or 5 points. I'm going to redo that. I want more than that. So spline, 1, 2. I'm having trouble with my mouse selection. I'm wondering whether it's the buttons themselves that are sticking. I've noticed that in a few of the lectures. 3, 4, 5. Middle mouse button. There we go. Middle mouse button again. And again, we can drag these around to change the shape. And we could actually double click on this and go into a completely different mode. And we could actually add a point and then move those points around. All right, so exit it. I'm going to resume because I was doing the trajectory. Now I'm back doing the command. And I want to take this and start down here. I'm going to go to references. My trajectory is there. Sections, I need a sketch. And I'm going to click on the 2D so you can see where it is. Right mouse button. And in this case here, I think I've put that rectangle command in my customization of my pop-up. But let's use the center rectangle. And you can remember where this is. Check. And sections, we're going to go to insert a section. Sketch. And we're going to keep our 2D view. And we're over here now. Center rectangle. And we'll make something like that. Now, the only thing I'm not sure of is where my starting point is. It turned out to be okay. If not, you will get a situation where, let's go back over to the sketch, and let's just change it to here. Make that the start point, and see what happens. Cool. All right, check. Now you'll notice that it's kind of odd down here. It's coming off normal to the sketch of the trajectory. So I'm going to go back into that, edit definition, go into my 2D view, and over here I'm going to make it tangent. So I'm going to pick my constraint called tangent, and I'm going to select the line and the arc. Check. And now you can see it's coming out correct. The last part of this one, if you want, you can go and select your edges. By the way, with rounds, you can pick surfaces, but you have to pick surface to surface. So here we go with a round. Finish that off. And how about a shell? Hold down the control key to gather both of them. Middle mouse button. There's my shell. And I can go into view and I could change the color of this. And I could also go into my shading with reflections. Kind of looks like a faucet. Control D. And if I wanted to change anything, I could pick on the sketch here and I could select edit dimension. You can see all the points come. So if I wanted to refine my design a little bit, or change it, I should say, I can morph this a little bit. And we have our faucet shape. This concludes lesson 3.